If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the filthy capitalist option. As Sori says, 125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. 125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and then get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at villageXchange@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go on the village, facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Buy our merch indeed, a child shall lead them.
To buy our merch.
Okay, this song is...
the next one up is 7 Years Alone by Devil You Know.
So, Devil You Know, 7 Years Alone. And this is brought to you by the big homie,
DJ Mike Franco.
Oh!
What?
The vocalist is Howard Jones, formerly of Killswitch Engage.
Oh,
I did not know that.
Okay.
Also, guys, give us more and more feedback about the audio clipping in and out. And by the way, could you be wrong about everything you claim to know? It's a debate trick, and I generally won't use that in a debate, but at minimum, the presuppositionalists are right, though, Vlad, in that regard. Everybody's a presuppositionalist at some level. Okay, having said that, dear listener, let's go. The Devil You Know, 7 years, what now?
7 Years Alone.
Ooh, loneliness. Good night. Let's do it. I love when they do that. Go! Alrighty then.
Oh my God. I see a theme forming here.
This is the guy from Killswitch Engage. So I thought initially that he got booted from the band because he was doing drugs or whatever. But I think it was more complicated, and he had like diabetes and some shit. Like, so like I think
Why would that make you have to stop the band?
I mean, you could die. I mean,
You could.
it's a rugged life on the road. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, to try to get
And the food
level
and
meals.
the eating
yeah,
and leveling yourself out and all that. Like,
yeah, you'd end up spending a lot of money probably just trying to keep your food.
That's a hard lifestyle. So he
yeah.
left. See right there. See, I said he was that, but he left. He actually James Bradford confirmed it. So a lot of us, I think this is also similar with Joey. Rest in peace to the homie, Joey from Slipknot. I thought it was drugs or whatever, but he had and so did the band, but he had like a really unique medical condition that obviously eventually ended up killing him, I think.
Ugh.
Amy, you're good beach, guitar work, you freaking weirdo.
Mama.
Come to mama, she says, as the only practicing Catholic. There are no female priests in the Catholic Church, you weirdo. So yeah, he so I think the song is about how people were basically judging him for
For leaving?
Yeah.
Oh, really? It sounds like he's going to jail. So, okay, when he said 7 years alone, 7 is
18 more to
generally looked at as the number of completion. So
Right.
I was like, okay, he's completely alone is what he's trying to communicate. But then he said 18 more to go. So I'm like, okay, that's a total of 25 years. So, I feel like I've heard 25 years to life.
Yeah, 25 to life.
I feel like that's like fairly common. And so that was what...
That's
he
a
said,
life sentence for like murder.
there's sin
or
in my
whatever.
heart, but I can't, but I stand accused of crimes that I did not commit.
Right.
Tried and confined, judged by your eyes, but I am an innocent man. Okay, so I thought maybe there was something, but you're saying that this has to do with diabetes?
Well, I think it'd be a pretty hurtful thing to be in this giant kill
Oh, and
switch.
everybody's saying you left because of drugs when that wasn't it at all. It's
Right.
that you had diabetes.
Right.
Yeah, you know what? When I was pregnant,
not that it wasn't it at all, because he says I do have sin in my heart, but not what you're talking about is what I'm saying. So, and that's the biggest thing. Like when it comes to people's guilt or innocence, people are not, the halo horn thing. To quote a very wise man in the chat.
it's not that simple.
It's not that simple. But the real, honestly, like when you're accusing someone, guilt or innocence definitely is a good standing point to go to. But then the next question is the commensurate punishment, does the punishment fit the crime? And can the crime be overlooked based on extenuating circumstances? That's a much harder way of doing life.
Say it again? What'd you say?
One, okay, so once,
I heard 1, 2
an
is where...
establishment of guilt or innocent, fine. Then the second level is, okay, does the punishment fit the crime?
Mm-hmm.
And 3, are there extenuating circumstance that will justify a look the other way type of thing?
Yeah.
Or a suspension of sentence.
Yeah.
But so
yeah, like if you stole something, but it was because somebody was starving, or
right,
you
that would
broke
be an
you broke in and
extenuating.
entered because you were gonna freeze it. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Right,
Yeah.
that's an extenuating circumstance, and I would argue that the perennial example of the kid who steals because he's about to die. He's starving to death. Mm-hmm. I would argue that the criminal in that situation is not the child, but the society that put the child in that situation.
That's true.
And so
That's true.
The loss of capital then that you got from that stolen bread is the punishment that you deserve. So now we're all square. Mm-hmm. Now make sure that kid has something to eat, right? But when it comes to like accusing somebody of something, it's a look, he's a rock star. Mm-hmm. So anytime I see a rock star that dies prematurely or gets kicked out of a band, I automatically think drugs. As soon as Joey died, I said, holy shit, drugs. I imagine a needle in his arm, whatever.
Yeah.
Or some other horrible situation. I never think, it was something outside of their control. And being a middle child, like, I know it's like kind of funny being the black sheep or whatever, but I got blamed for a lot of shit I didn't do. And it was really hurtful as a kid. Obviously as an adult now I go, okay, I mean, what was it in the grand scheme of things? Was it truly the end of the world? I mean, come on. But like, as a kid, you're like, damn, like, but then that line, like, I know I have sin in my heart. Yeah, like I did bad shit, but I didn't do the shit that you said that I did. Mm-hmm. Like, it's really difficult. And obviously when you become a parent yourself, you realize how hard it is to navigate that shit. Mm-hmm. And you need the wisdom of Job, and you gotta stay really, really prayed up, so that you can really engage the situation. Mm-hmm. But
Yep.
Here's Vlad. Nothing is black and white. That's a black and white statement, Vlad. Nothing is an absolute statement. Yet religious rules rarely provide exemptions. That's where human beings looking at those texts through a modern lens make their own. That's again, when Jesus healed the man on the Sabbath, Jesus didn't say, look, and the Pharisees were mad at him, Vlad. Jesus didn't say, I'm going to modernize this text now. What Jesus actually did was appeal to the Old Testament where he said, the priests continue to work and they're not breaking the Sabbath. Mm-hmm. So how much more, or when your sheep is in the middle of a well and you fish him out, they're not breaking the Sabbath. So how much more the son of Abraham, shouldn't he be made whole on the Sabbath? So much of the Old Testament actually relies on wisdom and doesn't give you specific. Islamic Sharia gives you very specific, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. Whereas the Old Testament was based on case law. One example would be how Solomon solved, and whether or not you think it's a true story or not, how Solomon solved the problem of whose baby does this belong to. Mm-hmm. And what was celebrated for Solomon was his wisdom in the way that he applied the law. So the Old Testament celebrates a wise person handling the law. Mm-hmm. It doesn't celebrate this wooden, literal interpretation, one size fits all of the law.
Well, interestingly enough, one of the things that I was reading from Sailhammer today was he's kind of building the case that the Old Testament was not about the law, but that it's a narrative showing because Abraham is praised for his faith.
Correct.
And so the faith of Abraham and the law of Moses are kind of contrasted.
Right.
And so in that situation, it's showing that they were trying to show the whole time that the law was not superior, but actually faith was. And so if that was the message of the Old Testament, then if somebody needed healing on the Sabbath, then you should heal them because it takes faith to be made whole. And so in that case, the law shouldn't trump faith.
Right. But mercy triumphs over judgment.
Yeah.
That's a 2000. So some of this, Vlad, is just, assumptions that are being made, and that doesn't even take into account all the extant literature in the intertestamental period.
Yeah.
I mean, subhanAllah, some of the laws You want to talk about modern laws? Some of the modern laws we have today are much less merciful and dynamic than the Old Testament. Mm-hmm. It's not even cool. The laws that we have on debt. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people, a lot of students that would much rather prefer an Old Testament law structure for debt than the so this idea that modern people, we know how to be dynamic and apply real world solutions. I just completely unbelievable. Reject that notion. But speaking of modern people, I think this is one of the things that shocked me. I saw how judgmental my community was, evangelical Christian community. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of judgment in pretty much every circle. I was surprised by that.
All over the place.
I remember the
first time. And at the most inappropriate times, too.
You know, like even silly petty things like, shout out to the underground metal elitist. But one day my phone started blowing up. Everybody's hitting me up. I was like, yo, this guy, I think it was Perk too. He's like, this guy just wrote this thing, a letter of contempt to Vin and Sori. And this was the first time that we got introduced to metal elitism, where you have to know a certain amount of bands to be a true metal fan. Yeah. And you shouldn't even be allowed to listen to this kind of metal. And obviously that kind of elitism is the exception and not the rule. Everybody else has been great to us. And we've always said we don't know what the hell we're talking about. We're being introduced to this stuff. And we're still being introduced to it 3 years later. Like, we've never said we're metal experts, but the human impulse to judge another person, it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's everywhere. And like, that's a smart line. Was it 17 years, 8 more to go, or 7 years, 18 more to go?
7 years, 18 more to go, I think is what it
was. That's 25 to life that he got. You know, basically it's a life sentence. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things where if you do something, or even if you're accused of doing something, it stays with you for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. For some people, you know. Yep. And I don't know. What do you think about that? Like.
Well, I don't agree with that. The thing is, like, I don't agree with, you know, there's one, you know, group of people that I'm talking to, and there's someone that has done many heinous crimes. And that's the thing. If somebody's not repentant and they're not trying to change, then they're going to keep repeating behavior, especially if they're enabled. So in that situation, then no. You should be alone, because you're refusing to change on this stuff that's damaging so many people. But if someone is actually repentant,
that's what Vlad was talking about with lifelong imprisonment for some kinds of people.
Yeah, there's some people but again, I don't know if, you know, like you said, like maybe the family stands beside these people, but then, you know, when they get home, they're like, yo, you were wrong for this, you know. But there are consequences for actions, and I think that there has to be, obviously, but I think that there are things that I've done in my life that I said, holy shit, I'm never doing that again. And if I had to be held, like if somebody had to put that in my face for the rest of my life, like, I don't think that's right, because people change. And, you know, like there's phrases like once a cheater, always a cheater, or, you know, like those sorts of things where it's like, once you're one way, you're always going to be that way. I don't know if I believe those statements anymore. Like, I think that people can make mistakes or really horrible things and really be repentant of those things, and not do them again. I mean, look at Paul or David.
I was going to say, Christians should never say something like that. That's completely inconsistent with the Christian world.
But they do. People say stuff like that all the time. So my thing is, you know, like if somebody ran people over with their cars, you know, like every time they got behind a wheel, they had the urge to run somebody over. I mean, I'd put them on a bicycle for a while, you know, before I put them behind a motor vehicle. But it would. So, but I don't think that, you know, if somebody's really repentant, that we shouldn't let them have, but I do think that there are certain crimes that, you know.
God almighty.
What?
In Britain, we've just imprisoned a necrophiliac. I'm not even going to finish the rest of that. I mean, you can, he's not coming out alive. Yeah. That's a form of, that sort of collective social judgment, though. And if you look at the lyrics of the song, is a form of imprisonment.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he literally uses the word prison because that kind of judgment.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. This command effort.
You always want me to do that, and I always like the game
right
of
there,
finding
imprisoned by hate.
Yeah.
Ensnared by my fate. So
yeah.
That's sort of collect. Now, I could see the argument both ways. I could see a person saying, yeah, and that functions as a deterrent. When you see how this particular person is excised from the community and judged, and look, they're on a registry and they can't move with, they got to declare themselves, and they go to a neighborhood with X amount of kids and all that. Mm-hmm. And you look at that and you go, that's a deterrent. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that's probably a deterrent. But the other side of that could be, as we said in the other video, that also might encourage that person to just lose their shit one day and either fall back into that. I had a family member.
Or you know what? It could make it so that way family members don't want to hold someone accountable when they've done something because they're like, it's too much for them to bear. Right.
So I have a family member who worked with rehabbing those particular kinds of folks. And, his big study at NYU was about recidivism rates and things like that. And my brother, he's my brother. He was always soft growing up. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? He was always trying to find the good in people. Mm-hmm. And, I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that I was his brother and I was always getting into trouble. And so he was applying that with this group of people. And he was like, how do we know the recidivism rate isn't just the fact that they're just giving up because society is continuously judging them. They can't hold a job. They can't get a job. Nobody wants to give them an apartment, XYZ. Even folks on the street will be gunning for them. And this is New York. Like, if people on the streets are gunning for your life.
Oh, yeah. We did
if you make it out alive at a prison.
We did this thing where we were around a bunch of, homeless people and drug addicts and all kinds of people. And we were just downtown in the heart of the city. And as soon as one of them would find somebody that was on the registry, they would immediately tell everybody. Of course, those people shouldn't have been in there anyway because we had kids there and they weren't supposed to be around kids.
Well, aside from telling, there's multiple occasions where dudes were about to get jammed up because of it.
Yep.
So, and that's the one group of people where people feel like we can do any and everything to those people.
And that's what I don't agree with. I think that, Yeah,
we were having a conversation in the car on Valentine's Day, no less. And I was like... I've been, thinking about it ever since we had that conversation, but go ahead.
I mean, I was talking to this person actually from our channel, and him and I have had, multiple discussions, and, he did something in his past that he really regrets. And he does seem like he made necessary changes. He turned himself in. He went to jail for the time he was supposed to go to jail for. In my opinion, it's not enough time, but and he's, as far as he's communicating, he's following what he's supposed to be following, and he's maintaining distance, and he's doing the things that he needs to do, and he's really, what changed for him was the younger person, I guess, would be a child. The child didn't necessarily see that there was something wrong. And he was already starting to see that this was a problem. And then the kid was saying, no, that's okay. It's all right. And then that's when he was like, what the fuck? And because he knew that he was wrong. And then that was when he really started making necessary changes. And he's been seeing, I guess there's people that you can see that can help you and stuff. And that's what he was doing. And but my thing is, I don't want to demonize him for the rest of his life if he's really repentant and he really took the steps he needed to. I mean, he turned himself in, he went to jail, and we all know if you go to jail, that can be you might not survive that. So, I'm not going to let him babysit my kids or anybody else's, but at the same time, I don't know. It just seems pretty convenient that we all have a group of people that we can hate to that degree and we can never forgive them for, and we can hold them to that. And then you talk to so many people, and there's so many people that this happened to. So it's okay, so there's a lot of people walking around with hard judgment for stuff that they or their family members did. And I have a problem with that. And I think because we've made such a big, you are the worst of the worst, that makes it so that way I think kids are less safe. because those people can't get help. They can't. What if somebody feels like that? What are they supposed to do? Tell somebody? Who's gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like, people are gonna keep it quiet, and you keep that stuff hidden and quiet, you can't talk about it. Well, what's gonna happen? It's a dangerous, dangerous road. So.
Yeah. No, I hear you, and it's obvious you obviously have a much more Christian perspective on it, and I think honestly you're probably right that our collective disdain of those people has probably endangered more children than helped. I don't think it's functioned as a deterrent. I think it's functioned to drive it underground. But yeah, your point is very, very, very well taken. Very well taken. What do you get the song?
You go first on this one.
8.8.
I'm going to go with an 8.75.
That's a brilliant line, though. 7 years alone, 18 more to go. Mm-hmm. There you are, dear listener. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.